I'm Mark Baker, and I'm very happy to be able to introduce to you today the author of the book The Messenger, Yannick Hanel, who has come to us all the way from Italy via France. The book is written in French, and I would also like to introduce you to Isabelle Mangeot-Hewison, who is going to help us in our intercultural conversation. I did 1 year of French, and I had dinner with Yannick the other night, and my French has improved more than 100%. But Yannick's English is way better than my French, and we might need some translation as we go. So Isabelle is going to help us. We'll also have an opportunity to open it up to you for questions during the course of this hour. This book, which I wrote an introduction for, means a lot to me because it addresses some of the central questions of my life today. My parents are both Holocaust survivors, and they always asked, either through silence or verbally, the overwhelming question, why? My father was in Auschwitz, and he wanted to know why the Allies didn't do something to stop the destruction that was happening there. And it's a question that I've carried on through my life in relation to other atrocities that have happened in this world, and I also ask myself, why? And you've written a book that attempts to provide an answer by repeating that question. And so what we're going to be doing today is discussing the issue of why. But we're going to begin by showing you a 2 minutes or 3 minutes of a film that really begins to answer the question why, what triggered you on this journey to write about Jan Karski. And it's from the film by Claude Lanzmann, Shoah. It's an 8-hour film. We could sit and stop it and talk for 8 and watch it for 8 hours, but I think we'll just show you the bit that opens up the book The Messenger, and then we'll open up our conversation after. So for those who haven't seen it, as you can hear, see, and now read, this is one of the most compelling testimonies ever given in history. And when you look at the scene here, there is Lanzmann, there is Karski, and there's an invisible camera that is bearing witness to the witness. You start off by quoting Paul Celan, who shall bear witness to the witness. So my first question to you is why you have chosen to insert yourself beyond the camera, beyond that moment, as a witness to the witness.
Yes. At first, I just want to say that I'm very proud to be here at the Wheeler Center, and very greatly honored to speak with Mark Baker. And I think that the things we will talking about this evening or this afternoon are so important: memory, Jewish thoughts, Holocaust, and literature, that I prefer not to speak in a broken English. I prefer to speak in French. Apologize, but Isabelle will translate my words. Vous avez vu le début du témoignage de Jan Karski, et ce qui continue, même ce soir, à me bouleverser dans ce témoignage, c'est que on entend dès le début les 35 ans de silence de Jan Karski.
What you have just seen, and what really keeps more than touch Yannick, is that here you can hear 35 years of silence that Jan Karski has gone through, and you can just hear it loud and clear.
Marc a absolument raison de placer cette séquence sous le signe de la troisième personne absente il y a effectivement Jan Karski, il y a Claude Lanzmann, et il y a quelqu'un qui manque.
And obviously this sequence has been placed by Mark immediately under the sign of a third person who is absent. There is Lanzmann, there is Jan Karski, but there is somebody who is missing.
Je ne sais pas qui est ce quelqu'un qui manque. Je crois que personne ne sait qui est cet absent. Mais j'ai toujours pensé que la personne qui manquait, le vrai témoin dans cette séquence, c'était le peuple juif.
Of course we don't know, and Yannick does not know who this person missing is, but he's always felt and always really deeply felt that the person, the missing person is the whole of the Jewish people.
Et ce qu'il y a de beau, d'émouvant et d'insupportable à la fois dans cette séquence, c'est que Jan Karski se lève et laisse la place vide précisément pour peut-être tous ceux qui sont morts.
Yeah. And what Yannick feels is incredibly beautiful and totally unbearable, actually, is that moment when Jan Karski can't bear it anymore, gets up and leaves this empty seat behind, probably to leave, to let speak the silence of those people that are dead, and that's what he feels very deeply. That he has tried to convey.
Pour moi, évidemment, Jan Karski est très important. Ce que dit Jan Karski est essentiel, mais c'est cette place vide qui, moi, m'a parlé la première fois que j'ai vu ce que vous venez de voir. Pour moi, si écrire a un sens, c'est pour essayer de donner voix à cette place vide.
Of course, the words of Jan Karski are extremely important. He's tried to write them. But for Yannick, really what the most important thing is the silence, the empty seat, and that is really what has pushed him to write the words, is to give words to the emptiness.
Alors la question de Marc est très, pour moi, très vertigineuse. Je crois que c'est impossible de répondre à une question pareille, c'est-à-dire quelle est ma place, moi, dans cette séquence, face à cette séquence. Je crois que je n'ai pas de place là.
Yannick finds actually the question, the original question, extremely confronting. Actually, it gives him a vertigo. He does not actually recognize what his place is when he watches this film, and he actually does not know what his place is, and that is probably the answer to the question, why has he tried to find his place by writing this book.
Je pense aussi qu'il ne faut surtout pas occuper la place vide que Jan Karski libère. Je pense que cette place vide, seuls des mots peuvent essayer de non pas de la combler, mais de lui faire écho.
And certainly he has not wanted to fill this empty seat with anything, and certainly not with words, but he has wanted to try to make words resound to help understand the emptiness of that seat.
Pour répondre peut-être plus simplement et plus bêtement à cette vertigineuse question, je dirais que si j'ai tenté d'écrire un livre après avoir entendu parler Jan Karski, c'est simplement par comment dire ça, parce que j'aime cet homme. Voilà, c'est...
Now to answer much more prosaically, and as Yannick said himself stupidly, to the question, it's just because he liked the man. He loved the man. He fell in love with the man when he watched the film. That's his place. That's why he just fell in love with the man.
Je pense que la question pourquoi est sans réponse, et pour quelqu'un comme moi, elle doit, de manière éthique, de manière morale, elle doit rester sans réponse. Je vais essayer de raconter une petite parabole.
Okay, so the question why, I think we've got that from Yannick, doesn't have a real answer, and he's quite happy ethically to leave it without an answer. But he would like to tell a little parable.
Yes. C'est dans un livre de Primo Levi. En français, le titre, c'est « Si c'est un homme ».
From a book by Primo Levi. In French, it's called Si c'est un homme. If he is a man, if he was a man, you probably... If he was a man, if this is a man.
Primo Levi est à Auschwitz, dans un baraquement, et il a soif, et il voit à la fenêtre une congère.
So Primo Levi is in Auschwitz, and he's very thirsty, and he sees out just outside the window une congère, which I have to say it's a block of ice.
Yes.
Yeah, a block of ice.
Il se dirige vers la congère, il la casse, et il commence à vouloir la porter à sa bouche.
He goes to it, he breaks it, he tries to get it into his mouth.
Et là, un capot
And then a capo
passe et lui dit que c'est interdit.
and just come through and tells him that he can't do it. It's against the law.
Primo Levi demande pourquoi,
Why? Asked Primo Levi.
et le capot dit en allemand « Hier ist kein Warum ». Ici, il n'y a pas de pourquoi.
And the response in German is here ist kein Warum, which means here there is no why.
Donc je pense que la plus belle question, la seule question du monde, c'est ce pourquoi. Mais je crois que dans cet épisode, Primo Levi montre que le monde, à partir de ce moment-là, était entré dans l'époque du sans pourquoi, du kein Warum.
Of course, the only legitimate question, the only big question in the world is why, but Primo Levi actually showed with this story and that at this time, at this moment, the world, humanity actually entered the era of there is no more why.
Donc le sans pourquoi est le signe de la barbarie.
Which is the sign of barbary?
Everyone understands. You don't
I'm
have to translate.
delighted because I don't know the noun.
Et en même temps, dans l'histoire de la littérature, il y a un autre moment où il y a cette expression de sans pourquoi.
There is another moment in literature, in the history of literature, where this question of no why actually happens.
C'est chez un poète mystique du XVIIe siècle qui s'appelle Angelus Silesius.
A mystic poet of the 17th century called Angelus Silesius.
Il dit la rose est sans pourquoi, elle fleurit parce qu'elle fleurit.
The rose doesn't have a why, it blossoms because it blossoms.
Dans ce cas-là, le sans pourquoi est le contraire de la barbarie. C'est la poésie.
And in this case, which is poetry, the no why is exactly the opposite of barbary. I think yeah.
So I think I'm going to be barbaric by asking this question, because I on the one hand accept the poetic,
Yes.
that there is no pourquoi, that there is no why, but there clearly is a why. I mean, there is a lot in your life that, if we start to go into beneath the surface, we can find some answers why you find yourself at this moment, at this intersection. It's one of the intersections of civilization, of our culture. It's the pourquoi of pourquoi. I'm sure it has nothing to do with your name, you know, Yannick Jan being the same first name as Jan Karski, but it perhaps has something to do with the fact that Karski was Catholic, and that I understand that in your own identity there are Catholic roots. It might have something to do with, you know, other wanderings and journeys. I know that the other night here at the Wheeler Centre you spoke and talked about your family roots and your own family life, and I think you confessed to some of these stories that you want to write about here for the first time in Australia. And so some of these things begin to explain why you have found yourself, perhaps unknowingly, without realising it, standing at the threshold of that particular opening, looking on at Jan Karski, and we'll talk about how in some ways you've become Jan Karski, but let's start with that, with your own background.
Yes. Je crois que c'est la... Je vois que ma parabole n'a pas suffi. Et je vais absolument répondre. Comment dire ça ? C'est la phrase de Paul Celan que vous avez citée tout à l'heure. Qui témoigne pour le témoin ? Je pense que dans ce qu'on a vu tout à l'heure, dans la séquence, la troisième personne, peut-être la caméra, mais nous sommes tous la troisième personne, c'est le témoin du témoin, c'est la transmission. Pour moi, la réponse, pourquoi, c'est pour que la transmission existe.
So, Yannick keeps going into the why, saying that the third person is really the camera, maybe, in terms of the transmission, because it goes back to the Paul Celan sentence that is quoted at the beginning of the book: who bears witness for the witness? And that is exactly what the camera is doing. That is what the third person is doing. So really he's trying to answer the why as well. Why? Because he wants to bear witness for the witness.
Yes. Je pense qu'il est impossible de ne pas se sentir concerné par le destin des Juifs d'Europe. Je pense que c'est absolument impossible. Moi, je ne suis pas juif, mais rien ne me concerne plus que le destin des Juifs d'Europe.
Of course, Yannick is, as Mark was saying, is not Jewish and has Christian roots and Catholic roots, like Jan Karski. But he feels that it is impossible not to be and to feel concerned and to feel part of the destiny of the European Jews. Do you mind if I just clarify, I think, what you said in your question, because I'm not completely sure that... Marc insistait sur le fait que justement tu étais de racines catholiques, chrétiennes, etc. Et qu'en fait il cherchait quel était le rapport, pas quel était le rapport, mais quelle était la jointure justement, à quelle jointure. Et donc il essaie de chercher quelle est la jointure dans le monde, même à la France, le rapport à la France.
Avec Karski.
Avec Karski, évidemment.
Yes.
Sorry. I'm just trying to.
Do you want to? Yeah. I mean, so if we can, perhaps go to some of the more controversial aspects that might illuminate more about your motives for writing it. So you're standing there at that entrance, and I've read it, and I know that many other people who've read it, some of whom have written beautiful things here in the book, and who are sitting here as well, Ray and Arnold. We all have welcomed and been incredibly moved by your positioning here as a witness to the witness. But there's at least one person in your own country who has said that you don't belong there.
Yes.
And that is the person who's holding the camera, or who's sitting there in that film, who I understand there are many layers to what he has written, and it has been quite vicious in his approach. But Lanzmann, in part, believes that the camera has been witness to the witness, and that the person who gives that testimony is Karski.
Yes.
And you have come and claimed that moment, rewritten that moment in words, and then as the book progresses, you become Karski. You take on his voice, you imagine the voice, and therefore the question is, are you being witness to the witness, or are you positioning yourself as a new kind of witness, which possibly, Lanzmann says this, and I don't believe this, but it's in all the media, says that it distorts the testimony.
Yes. Je pense que la question, c'est celle de savoir comment un témoignage, celui qu'on a vu, celui de Karski, comment est-ce que ce témoignage peut continuer à travers le temps?
The real question for Yannick is how can somebody who has witnessed something, and how can it be continued through time? How can it be continued to be born through time?
En 1942, deux hommes juifs du ghetto de Varsovie transmettent un message à Jan Karski.
In 1942, two Jewish people from the ghetto give a message to Jan Karski to transmit.
En 1979, Jan Karski transmet le message à Claude Lanzmann. C'est ce que vous avez vu.
In 1979, Jan Karski gives the message to Claude Lanzmann, which you have just seen.
La question que je me suis posée, qui est une question à la fois très modeste et peut-être extravagante, c'est à qui Claude Lanzmann, à son tour, transmet le message.
Yannick's question, which could be both rather modest but also kind of extravagant, is now, after that, who is Claude Lanzmann going to give the message to?
La réponse, c'est à moi.
And the response is to himself.
La réponse, c'est à chaque personne qui regarde Shoah.
To every person who watches Shoah.
Je pense que personne n'a besoin de prouver la légitimité de son écoute.
Nobody needs to prove the legitimacy of being a listener.
Quand on regarde le film Shoah, où Karski transmet le message à Claude Lanzmann, eh bien, on devient soi-même, si on a un cœur, si on a des oreilles, si on a une âme, on devient le témoin du témoin du témoin.
Anybody who watches the film, anybody with a heart, with a soul, with an ear, becomes the witness of the witness, of the witness, of the witness, but becomes the witness.
Pour moi, ce n'est pas une question d'identité, ni même de racines, ni de biographie. C'est une question d'écoute.
And it's certainly not, for Yannick, a question of identity, of roots, of biography, of where you come from, but a question of what you hear and of immediacy of witnessing.
Alors, je sais que Claude Lanzmann, l'homme qui reçoit le message de Jan Karski, n'aime pas mon livre.
As it happens, Yannick knows for a fact that Claude Lanzmann, the man who made the film, does not like, I think this is to put it really, really mildly, does not like his book.
Et, je pense que ça fait partie de l'histoire très compliquée, précisément de la transmission.
But that's exactly part of the story of transmission. It's a very, very complex story.
Et la deuxième chose, c'est que Claude Lanzmann n'a pas apprécié que je parle dans mon livre de la deuxième journée de tournage avec Karski, celle qu'on ne voit pas.
There's another thing as well, which is that Claude Lanzmann did not like at all the fact that Yannick talks and mentions, more than mentions in the book, the second part of the film, which has been edited out of the film.
Yes.
Well, which shows.
Dans cette seconde journée, Karski ne parle plus du ghetto de Varsovie, mais il parle de sa mission et de sa rencontre avec Roosevelt.
And in that second day of the film, which again has been edited out so that nobody has seen, or not when you watch show anyway, Jan Karski does not talk about the Warsaw Ghetto anymore. He talks about his meeting with Roosevelt, about his mission as a witness.
Je vais un petit peu préciser. En 1943, Jan Karski a rencontré le président Roosevelt pour lui transmettre ce qu'il avait vu dans le ghetto de Varsovie.
So in 1943, Jan Karski did meet with President Roosevelt so that he could actually tell him what he saw in the Warsaw Ghetto.
Il existe, on ne sait pas ce qui s'est passé durant cette rencontre. Il n'existe que des versions diplomatiques, et je dirais très diplomatiques.
And there's no record of this meeting except for diplomatic records, and Yannick insists on the word diplomatic, very diplomatic records. So nothing real.
Mais un jour, Jan Karski a dit, dans les années 80, il a dit qu'il pensait que les gouvernements alliés avaient abandonné les Juifs d'Europe.
But Jan Karski actually one day did say in the 80s, actually said that he thought that the Allied the government of the Allied forces, had effectively abandoned the European Jews?
Alors j'ai imaginé dans la partie fictionnelle de mon livre les pensées de Jan Karski et à partir de cette phrase et son réquisitoire au fond contre les Alliés.
From that, Yannick, from that very sentence, Yannick imagined in the fictional part of the book how Jan Karski must have felt after the war, for which again there are absolutely no record because Jan Karski kept very silent, and his anger against, or his possible anger against the Allied governments.
Et Claude Lanzmann ne veut pas entendre parler de ça. Il pense que c'est faux.
Claude Lanzmann refuses and refutes absolutely that kind of what he calls fiction. He thinks he calls it false. I think.
So, one of the themes in the book about Karski is that he goes to Roosevelt with the message.
Yes.
And Roosevelt, in your portrayal, is maybe indifferent is too strong a word, but doesn't act on the message. Karski famously goes to a Supreme Court judge, Felix Frankfurter, gives him the message, and Frankfurter says, "I don't believe you," and Karski says, "You're calling me a liar," and as you know, Frankfurter says, "No, I just said, I don't believe you." This was a Jewish judge. "I don't believe you." So my question to you, Yannick, is, in writing this book, can you bridge that misunderstanding? Can you
bridge?
Can you recreate history and provide a testimony, a voice, in which Roosevelt will say, "I will act," in which Frankfurter says, "I understand," and in which Madeleine Albright says, "We have to stop Rwanda," and we sit here and say, "We have to do something about Darfur."
je vais être sûr de bien comprendre.
Oui. Est-ce que tu crois que, en témoignant avec ce livre, finalement, est-ce que tu crois que la parole de ce livre a la puissance, a le pouvoir de faire le pont finalement et de peut-être dire à Roosevelt, a posteriori évidemment, voilà ce qui se passe, finalement à Madeleine Albright, voilà ce qui se passe au Rwanda, et voilà ce qui se passe actuellement et dans le futur. Est-ce qu'on va pouvoir enfin porter témoignage grâce à ce livre?
C'est encore une question tellement vertigineuse. J'adorerais. It will be great if it was possible. Pour moi,
it's a bit huge as a question and probably as an answer, I think.
pour moi, si un livre était capable de renverser l'histoire, si un livre était capable de transformer le monde, alors oui, je serais le plus heureux des hommes, mais je crois que je ne serais pas le seul, en fait.
If a book was capable of transforming the world, Yannick would be a totally happy, fulfilled man and writer. But hopefully.
mais au fond, je ne pense pas que la littérature soit une manière de réécrire l'histoire. Je pense que c'est une manière d'essayer de montrer combien l'histoire est encore plus compliquée, encore plus ambiguë, encore plus brouillée qu'on ne le pense.
But as a matter of fact, Yannick does not think really that literature is a way of rewriting history. He thinks, more to the point that it is something that allows people to try to understand it and to try to understand that it is even more complex, even more ambiguous, even more difficult to understand that one thinks.
C'est le grand écrivain Walter Benjamin qui disait que pour lui, sans doute, l'idée de la poésie ou de la littérature consistait à prendre l'histoire à rebrousse-poil.
Walter Benjamin, great writer, said that for him, literature was a way of... I have no idea how to translate this. Upside down, yes.
Upside down, yes.
Yeah, but à rebrousse-poil is so much more beautiful than upside down, sorry. À rebrousse-poil, you know? Against the grain, much more beautiful. Yeah, here we are. Yeah.
So, and when I read it, I also read a testimony and a voice that wasn't just against the grain and didn't use fiction only to imagine, but that was part of it. But I sensed a very deeply religious theme, and that your literary writing in the end almost ritualized this idea of the word in a very Christian sense, I thought, of Karski embodying both the Jew and the Catholic, not just because he was married to a Jewish woman, but in his own identity, he brought together the Jew and the Catholic. And it was in that coming together as if there was almost this embodiment of the word that transcended, that went above time and made that question timeless and made it possible for us to go inside the question at any moment and answer it again as it should have been answered.
Yes.
And so it didn't surprise me when I met you 2 nights ago that you said that your wanderings now, your new journeys,
Yes.
have taken you to surprise places, and one of those places are the mystical writings of Jewish Hasidic masters like Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav.
Yes.
And it didn't surprise me. From the book, there was a sense in which I felt you were going in that direction. But why? What is that side of you that is being drawn to mysticism?
Why? So beautiful question. But, I think that for me, language is exactly the space or the area where Catholic thoughts and Jewish thoughts are meeting. It's not for me a question of identity or seeds. We say seeds. It's a question of language. I don't know if language is a Catholic thing or language is a Jewish thing. For me, it's exactly when I write. I speak English. So
You didn't realize you forgot.
A sort of miracle. Miracle.
Keep going.
Is it a Jewish or
Jewish miracle? Je me sens. I'm too shy now.
Wonderful.
Excuse me. So I try to continue in English, but yes. I think that this thing I call literature, which is not only literature but philosophy, I don't know, is is a sort of a way to say like Jan Karski and to make the experience of that sentence, this sentence of Jan Karski, I am a Catholic Jewish. For me, it's an incredible sentence. I am a Catholic Jewish, or I am a Jewish Catholic. And Mark, you have reason. It's like if c'est comme si c'était moi qui disais cette phrase.
It's exactly right. You're right, Mark. It's exactly as if Yannick was saying it.
C'est comme si ma vie entière, mes pensées, ce que j'aime, se situaient mystérieusement là, dans cette phrase. Mais seuls les livres que j'essaye d'écrire peuvent ouvrir cette phrase.
So,
it's only through the words that he writes in books that Yannick can open this sentence where he finds himself, and which has not been said by him, but where he found himself so entirely. And maybe that is the response to your why, how it resounded so much in himself, this sentence.